Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Christopher Chu, coach and founder of the Hero's Journey Experience, which is a men's-only ayahuasca retreat held in South America. So today, we're going to continue talking about the hero's journey. And the part that we're going to talk about is the ordeal. This is when the hero has to go through an obstacle, a conflict, has to face their inner demons. And the way that this has applied to my own personal hero's journey is with the plant medicine ayahuasca. And I'll start out by just explaining what ayahuasca is. It's a plant medicine used in indigenous cultures in South America, such as Peru, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador. And they use it for different modalities of healing, such as spiritual, mental, emotional, even some physical aspects. So the indigenous tribes in the Amazon, such as the Shipibo, they've been, with the shamans, they administer it in ceremonies. And that's, you could say that's almost like their form of therapy or of health insurance. They don't have, you know, growing up in the old times, they didn't have hospitals and stuff like that. So they would use natural remedies from Mother Nature. And so that's what ayahuasca is. It's made out of two aspects. One is the vine, from the actual ayahuasca vine, and the other part is the chacruna, and that's from the bark of another plant. And this is what they make a brew out of. And it's a very dark liquid. It's probably the nastiest, foul tasting thing I've ever drank before. And typically the ceremonies are held at night. They're in a maloca, which is a very basic hut structure, almost like a temple. And yeah, you take the medicine with the shaman and you're pretty much just laying down and going deep within. So if you want to learn more about ayahuasca, I actually have other videos on my YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out. I go a little bit more in depth and give a better explanation. But what I want to move on to next is, why did I feel called to go work with the medicines in South America? So as I mentioned in the previous videos, when I first got to Asia, it was to focus on Muay Thai and meditation, and also develop myself, be a better human being, self-actualization, transformation, personal growth. And as I started reading books and getting into personal development and learning from other people who are on a similar path, that's when I started discovering about myself that I have inner wounds that I need to heal and deal with. Because when I was in New York, I was not dealing with these issues. I was instead suppressing them and repressing them with drugs, alcohol, food, pornography, anything I get my hands on. So these issues from childhood, stemming from childhood, I was carrying them and they were affecting me on my day-to-day basis. So when I got to Thailand, that's when I started having more self-awareness about what was going on inside my emotional world. So as I became aware of these things that were affecting me on an emotional level, I was like, all right, I need to heal these things, because if I don't heal them, they're just going to come back and affect me and have a bigger impact in a negative way on my life. So at this point, I had already been to the meditation retreat, the Vipassana temple in Chiang Mai. I'd already done my first Muay Thai fight. So the next thing that I wanted to delve into was the plant medicine world for healing purposes. So I got introduced to that through Joe Rogan and his podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. And through listening to guests such as Aubrey Marcus and Graham Hancock, I was really intrigued by the medicine world. Also, one of my good friends, Nick Gregoriadis, he actually had a podcast explaining his experience with ayahuasca in Peru. So at this time, I was just pulled into this rabbit hole of learning everything I could about ayahuasca. And so I was scheduled to go back to New York for my brother's wedding at this point. So I was already living in Thailand for about 12 to 14 months. And I was like, listen, if I'm gonna go all the way to North America, which is like a 25 to 30 hour flight, then I might as well shoot down to South America and visit the shamans and go to the jungle and work with these medicines, because it's very far from Asia. They're almost complete opposites of the world. So that was the plan. I started researching which retreat centers were reputable, which shamans I could trust, and I just watched a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of blogs. This is 2014, so there weren't big sites that were talking about safe places to go to. I pretty much had to do all the research myself. So I decided on a retreat center, made the deposit, and yeah, I was excited. I booked my tickets for Peru. So that's what happened. April 2014, I then flew to Iquitos, which is in the Amazon jungle, and that was a 12-day retreat, and it was about 25 to 30 people in the jungle. They're very basic. There's no electricity, running water. It was, I think, from what I remember, it was like an hour boat ride, another hour hike to the jungle, and even the bus ride was another hour to even get to the river. So it was in the middle of nowhere, basically, and similar to where I'm at right now in Thailand. It's in the jungle. So we get there and we got to meet the shamans and meet everybody else. So to summarize, it was a 12-day retreat, and during that time period we had 7 ceremonies with the medicine. So that was my first time ever sitting with plant medicine, and also before that I had not really experimented much with psychedelics. Also, you could say, sorry, the mosquito just really bad out here. You could say the only experience I had was in college, and that was more of a partying with mushrooms and whatnot, but it wasn't really done in a conscious way. It wasn't done in a safe environment with respect or intention. So yeah, I was coming into this experience as a complete newbie and stepping into the unknown. So during that time we had 7 ceremonies, and I remember being, for the first ceremony, I was definitely apprehensive and a bit nervous, because I had watched a lot of YouTube videos of other people's experiences, read a lot of things, and some of the descriptions, they sounded horrific. They sounded almost like a nightmare. And I was worried that I was gonna be dragged through the mud and just, again, lose my mind and just be by myself with really a tough situation. So I was definitely, like I said, going into this, I did not know what to expect. Luckily for me, Mother Ayahuasca was very gentle for the first ceremony. Obviously I had to puke and purge and deal with things like that, but it wasn't that overly uncomfortable. So why specifically did I actually go to the retreat? And this is a question that when I got there, the facilitator, they brought us in individually to meet with the shamans, to speak to them. And there was 3 female shamans and 2 male shamans. And it's just me, the 5 of them, plus the translator, the facilitator. So I remember they were like, Chris, why are you here? What are you here to work on? And some people, typically when you come to a retreat like this, it's not for shits and giggles. It's usually you have some deep stuff that you need to work on. Sometimes it's an addiction, such as alcoholism or drug abuse. Sometimes it's been sexual trauma, or maybe a really bad breakup or divorce, some kind of relationship issue. So when they asked me that, I explained to them, which is something I mentioned previously in my videos, is growing up in New York as the only Asian American, that really had an effect on me, constantly being bullied and made to feel different, like an outcast. That really affected my self-perception of who I was. And I didn't have any self-love, any confidence, any self-esteem. I didn't love myself. I almost had a loathing for myself, you could say. And I carried a lot of shame as well about being Asian. You know, I used to always think, why couldn't I have just been born as a white person? My life would be so much easier. So that was a really big aspect of why I came. So when I explained that to them, they were like, to summarize, they're like, all right, so you want to let the sadness out of your heart, let the grief out. And I was like, yeah, I never thought about that. I had been carrying that around pretty much for all my life. And that weighed heavily on me. So yeah, the big intention was releasing that hurt and that pain. So I remember the first or second ceremony. I remember, so what happened is we're in a big circle. After you take the shot of medicine, you're laying down and it's completely black and you're in a big circle. The shamans come around and they sing ikidos, which are the medicine songs. And they come up to you individually and sing it in the dark. So I remember one of the older ladies, the older shamans, I think maybe Maria or Rosa, I can't remember, but I remember they came up and they sang, and their voices were so angelic and so soothing. And I remember it was as if she was singing directly into my heart, and that feeling that was transmitted to me was be kind to yourself, Chris. Love yourself. Because no one had ever really showed that to me in a deep way, ever. And I think because also I didn't allow myself to accept love at that point. So during that experience, when she was singing it to me, that's what I felt and experienced. And I never felt that before, to have that kind of self-respect for myself, that self-love. So that was a really big healing process. And so yeah, so throughout the 12 days, I continued working on that and going through that. So, and the way the ceremony is, it's you start 7 or 8 at night, and then you go until 2 or 3 in the morning. So it's a very long ordeal, and for me, it wasn't anything like, I would say, pleasant. Obviously I was growing and healing, but it wasn't like an enjoyable experience. So after that experience, I then went to the Sacred Valley, which has Machu Picchu. That's in Peru as well, such as Cusco. And there I worked with another medicine, which is San Pedro Huachuma, which is the cactus medicine, really big. So that was the first time I got to sit with that medicine as well. And that was a much more different experience. That was a more gentle experience for me. It's taken during daytime, we're up in the mountains. And one of the big takeaways that I got from that was, I'm okay. Life can be beautiful, life can be gentle, it can be enjoyable. Just be present. A lot more, I guess you would say, lighter emotions and feelings I felt. And there's so much I could talk about that, but I just want to summarize and be brief about this. So how would I summarize this in terms of the hero's journey and the ordeal, and what gifts or boons did I receive? So the reason why this is the ordeal is because, you know, going into an unknown world physically, which is South America, into the jungle, which is very uncomfortable, and then also going deep internally into the unknown of myself and seeing what traumas are there, or facing what fears or wounds. That's the ordeal, because I'd never really done that before. And that's why it's the ordeal. It's the unknown, and you're really facing some uncomfortable things. You're really testing yourself in some uncomfortable situations. So that's why I would say that. And also, you kind of forfeit control when you're under the medicines. You know, it's hard to move. Your motor skills are almost non-existent. You have to be almost chauffeured when you're going to the bathroom. You can barely walk. You're in a weakened state. You're vulnerable. You're under the influence of medicines. You're almost in a lucid state. So that's why it's the ordeal. It's not something that you take lightly. You actually have to prepare for this as well. You have to go on a special dieta, restricting your food intake before you work with the medicines, up Some recommend 2 weeks up to a month in advance, and that's what I did. A pretty strict diet, no alcohol, no sex. It's almost like being a monk. So that's why it's a very, that's why I think psychedelics and plant medicines, they're an ordeal, which it's not for everybody, but it's one option I like to suggest to people who feel called to it. And it's one ordeal that I personally put myself through, because you can really learn a lot about yourself, you can heal, and you can step into the unknown. Also, it's about expanding your consciousness, learning about life and wisdom. And that's kind of what I want to talk about next. What were the deep insights, the gifts that I received from putting myself through the ordeal? I would say one is healing and making peace with the past and healing these inner wounds that I had. That was a big thing. And then also that allowed me to heal relationship with myself, but also my relationship with other people, with other family members. And then I would also say, you could say that ayahuasca it took out, it was almost like a detox, all the shit that was inside my heart, that all the heavy negative energies and stuff from the past and traumas. It cleaned me out, and then you could say San Pedro filled me back up with the love and positive emotions and lightness. And so yeah, so with San Pedro, the insights I got was I really reestablished my connection to Mother Nature. I felt very grounded and connected to Earth, and to see the real beauty in all the lush jungle and the mountains and the oceans. I really, because I would say from living in New York City and working there, that's the concrete jungle, I really disconnected from nature, and I forgot my relationship with the outside world, with all the beauty. I didn't know how to really appreciate it and how to be present. So that was a big gift, you know, sitting up in the mountains and just looking at the clouds and just being present. Another thing as well is I further developed how to be present in the moment and how to just sit there and just be with nature or be with myself. So San Pedro was very gentle with me. So those were some of the big insights I got from work with ayahuasca and San Pedro. So there's so much I can talk about this. I want to keep this video short, but that I want to say is for the first year and a half I was living abroad, that was a pretty big impactful part of my transformation, of my hero's journey, is going to Peru for 6 weeks and learning from the shamans, learning from the plant medicine world, and healing a lot of things from the past. That was a big gift and big takeaway. And so yeah, there's more insights I'll share later on the videos, but that about summarizes the ordeal. So I'm gonna shoot some more videos on other topics. Please let me know if you have any questions. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, please hit the subscribe button. And yeah, that's it for today. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later. Bye.